Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rechakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the elders of Great Millstone, who very well, very beautifully. Double salutations be unto the Akim, out here pushing his gospel in truth and in sincerity to the best of their ability, given to them by Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Lord willing, fall upon your houses. This is the brother Quanawath come back at you, Lord will, with the edifying lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Lord will. It is edifying, Lord will. It is straight to the point. And we are definitely in the time of the prophecy, Revelations 13 and verse 16 to come into pass. Right, we are definitely in that time, and starting with the elder apostles of Great Millstone, we've been telling y'all, for years, right, that Esau, Edom, right, was ultimately going to come, with this device, right, that he's ultimately trying to, going to try to, put inside you, right, which is ultimately going to have all your information, right, it's going to have, your digital wallet, it's going to have your health records, it's going to have all your personal information, right, attached to this device, especially, right, this new currency, right, that they're ultimately trying to push, right, because we understand that the dollar is going down, right, more and more nations are stepping away from the dollar and doing trade outside the dollar, which ultimately, is making it to where the power of the dollar, right, is going down, right? So as we see that happening, we understand that Esau has ultimately established certain policies and bills like the Genius Act, right, the Stable Coin Act, and so on and so forth, would ultimately allow for him, right, to come out and utilize, monitor, and control, this digital currency, right, this Fed now stable coin, if you will, right, that they're ultimately going to, roll out, and it's going to happen here soon, right? And again, right, you're going to need that charagma, right, the RFID micro C-hip, right, in order to receive that money, right? It's going to come down to the point where, Esau is going to, say, hey, if you want to, be a part of this new system, you're going to have to take this charagma, right? This RFID micro C-hip, which is going to have all of your money, right, on it, right? Especially in a time where people need that money, And I have an article, right, that Esau is coming out with the U.B.i, right, a universal basic income, that he's ultimately going to give the people, and it's going to get the people attached, right, to receiving this free money, sort of like he did with the scamdemic, and it's happening now, right? So before I get into this article, I want to grab this. Is Habakkuk 2:1. It says, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower and will watch to see what he will say unto me and what I shall answer my reproof, right? We're on our watch. We're on our guard. We're constantly looking, at what's going on, right? In the world, right? On the main stage as well as behind scenes, right? We're looking at all these different things, man, right? So that way we can, again, identify, right, the times that we're in, right? What's about to happen, Verse 2, it says, and Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon the tables, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak. And it's speaking loud and clear, right? It says, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. It says, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. And it is happening, And this article I have is on the Newsbreak app. Right, again, going into this U.B.i that Esau is ultimately offering, right? It says Americans may see unconditional monthly checks up to $1,000 for 3 years in new transition program, right? It says lawmakers are looking into creating a new transition program for young Americans that would distribute monthly cash payments of $1,000 for 3 years, right? Again, giving the people free money. And who in this economy, right, in the way that the dollar is going and so on and so forth, right, who is not going to take a free $1,000, You know, most of these people actually need it, right? Because again, right, we see that the city of confusion is being broken down as you read in Isaiah the 24th chapter, right? America is being destroyed from the inside out, right? Economically, socially, financially. You know, these people are in a very bad position. So these people are going to eat it up. And see, this is all a part of Esau, Edom's agenda, right? Second Corinthians, matter of fact, let's grab it. It's Second Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 11. It says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices, man. Right? And when you go into that word devices, which we've gone into many times, right? Strong's G 3540, noema, right? It says a mental perception, a thought, an evil purpose, right? That which thinks, the mind, thoughts, or purposes. So we see through the spirit and power, Yahweh Shem Shah, we see right through his little plan, right? His little plot, right? Because we understand that he's coming out with this digital currency, right? Yes, he's going to be giving people, that $1,000, and you best believe it's going to be digital. He's going to send it to your bank account, or you're going to have some type of card that he's going to give you, and that money's going to be put on the card, however it may come about, right? But we understand this is all a part of the agenda, right? This is all part of, the NWO, right? To get you people attached to receiving some kind of U.B.i, right? And then when you start to get comfortable with it, right? Because they've already been doing U.B.is, right? Little trials and stuff like that all throughout the United States, right? The last few years, right? They've been doing it, and now here they are again, right? Saying, hey, lawmakers, right? This is going to be something that's going to be, made a law, right? Which we'll see, right? Which, but nonetheless, it's according to prophecy, that this is ultimately going to take place, man. So again, right through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shah, we see right through, this plan, right, that he has, right? His scheme, right? It says the unconditional cash will come as part of a universal basic income proposal, which we know Esau doesn't do, free, right? We've already told y'all, especially going back to the scamdemic, right? 2019, 2020, right? When Esau was sitting here saying, hey, come and take these JABs, right? Come and take these JABs, come and take, what is it? Joints for jabs and so on and so forth. He's giving all you this free money, right? He's giving you these free things that, so on and so forth. But see, there was always a catch. And now we see people dying, right? From, having taken, that poison, because that's exactly what it was. Right, scriptures talk about his physicians, right? They're physicians of no value, right? They're not real doctors. They're really just mad scientists, right? Esau's a mad scientist, and so on and so forth. And again, a lot of you people took it. A lot of you people ultimately gave in, right, to the deception, right? Because we go back to 2 Corinthians 2:11, right? It says Satan, right? Let's see if we can pull it, right? Right, it says, lest Satan should get advantage of us, right? Let's go back to that word Satan, right? It's a Strong's G 5467, right? Which is in Hebrew Shaitan, right? It says adversary, one who opposes another in purpose or act the name given. It says a Satan like man. So this, Esau Edom, right? He is the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, and again, this is what he's doing. This is what he's pushing out there, these are his plans, his plots, his schemes. And again, it's deception, as we've been telling you, scripture saying, Sirach 12:10, never trust thine enemy. Why? Because he is a deceiver, right? Psalms the 10th chapter. Let's grab that. Right? This is Psalms chapter 10. One of my favorite precepts just dealing with that. Matter of fact, we'll grab this one instead. Right? This is St. John chapter 8 and verse 44. It says, ye are of your father the devil, right? Right? A Satan like man, right? Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. Now we understand that this is, Yahweh Shai is speaking to, wicked Israelites, right? But this can also be applied to Esau Edom, right? Who is the wicked, right? It says, ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, right? Talking about Cain, right? Because the same spirit that's, that was in Cain is the same spirit that's in Esau, Edom today, right? It says he was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there was no truth in him, right? Because it says when he speaketh lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. And again, that's Esau, Edom in a nutshell, right? He is a liar, right? So he's saying unconditional cash, bullshit. It's going to come with a catch. And that catch is going to eventually be you needing to take this RFID micro C hip in order to receive that money, right? I'll read it again. It says the unconditional cash would come as part of a universal basic income proposal in one U.S. state, with similar legislation up for debate in more than half of the country, right? It says called the Universal Basic Income for Transition Age Youth Program. The initiative, right? The initiative would offer a financial helping hand to young Americans aging out of foster care or similar state supervised living situations, right? And eventually it's going to go past that, right? It's not just going to be for a certain group. It's going to be for everybody. It's going to be offered for everybody, right? It says the program was proposed in Maryland via bipartisan legislation by state delegate and legislators for a guaranteed income member, Gabriel Acevedo. It's like if I said that wrong. It says, should the proposal become a reality, and it will, it says the program would distribute unconditional $1,000 checks for 36 months to qualifying individuals who were in out-of-home placement on their 18th birthday. So participants' 18th birthday must also fall on or after October 1st, 2026. So they're ultimately saying, hey, it's going to be for these, right? It's going to be for these people. It's going to be to help them, and so on and so forth. But again, Esau does. We understand he's a liar, right? He's throwing out a universal basic income under the guise of helping those who are in need, you know. But again, we understand it's going to eventually turn into him saying, hey, in order for you to keep this money, in order for you to continue to get this money, so on and so forth, you're going to have to take the charagma. This is how the devil moves, man. This is not something that, we're just making up, right? This is something that he has shown, that he does, right? Again, going back to the scamdemic, going back to, many different examples, man. This devil would create a problem or say that he's going to do something, and then offer some type of solution or create a problem, offer some type of solution, right? And get you people to take it. And in reality, right, he turn around and switches up, this is how he moves, man, drop down. It says the proposed U.B.i programs in Maryland and New York are just two of many across the country that are being considered by lawmakers as the rising cost of living continues to weigh down on Americans' wallets. And see, this is all done by design, right? What is it? Problem, reaction, solution, right? He created a problem. The people are reacting. They're crashing out. These people are fucking making thousands and thousands, millions of videos are coming out every single day of people saying, I can't make ends meet. I can't do this. I can't do that. Because prices are so high. What he's going to do, he's going to come in with a solution, right? And in this case, it's what? A U.B.i, right? The people are in need. Here you go. But you have to take this. We'll give it to you for 3 years or so, however long, because if this passes by the end of the year, 3 years is what? From 2027 to 2030. Agenda 2030. So Esau is throwing things out there, man. Again, we see right through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shah. It says, I'll drop down. It says there are currently over 20 bills across 11 states proposing some kind of statewide guaranteed income program, and 65 or more bills in an additional 15 states that would roll out cash-based policies similar to guaranteed income. Legislators for a guaranteed income said in a news release. This means that more than half of U.S. states are now looking into some form of guaranteed income legislation. Why? All part of the program, man. You can go and look up the rest of this article And you could pause it, read the rest of this article, man. But hey, we're in these times for sure, man. We are definitely in these times, and again, it's giving you different pilot programs and so on and so forth, right, that are ultimately being, put out there, right, showing you the Esau's really moving on this, man, but I want to grab this, right, this is Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16, because this is what it's going to come down to, right, you're going to have to take this charagma in order to get that money, right? It says Revelations 13 verse 16, it says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, right? And again, this is going into this little RFID micro C-hip, right? And again, it's going to have all your information on it, right? Strong's G 5480, charagma, right? It says a stamp, imprinted mark. It's a thing carved, right? Sculpture, graven work, right? So something that's going to be put inside you, right? Your skin is going to be cut open, right? And it's going to be, a device is going to be inserted in you via the what? As it says right here, the palisade, the pale, the stake, right? Which is going to be that needle, which they're already doing it, right? We've been, starting with the elder apostles on down, we've been making videos and showing you, bringing out the evidence that they're already doing these, right? Doing this within the United States. Certain tattoo parlors, right? Certain companies are offering the C-hip, So it's happening right now, right? But this is the point I wanted to grab, right? When you go into the second root word, it says what? Strong's G 1125, grapho, right? It says to write, right? With reference to the form of the letters, right? It says to write with reference to the content of the writing. It says right here, to write to one, i.e. by writing in a written epistle, to give information, right? Directions, right? All your information is going to be on there. Again, your health records, right? Which is why you seen, JFK Jr., right, was ultimately, introducing, right, that data sharing, right? The universal, universal healthcare, if I'm not mistaken, United Healthcare, right? Saying, hey, United Healthcare, as well as these different apps and different devices like the O-ring and stuff like that, right? All of your watches, smartwatch, and so on and so forth. All these things will collect your health, right? Your blood pressure, your oxygen, your how many steps. All that's recorded in these devices, right? And they're ultimately introducing, right, that data sharing to where now all these things that you go to your doctors, you can opt in to data sharing, and they'll be able to pull all your information up, man. Right? All of that information is going to be on, on that device, right? Personally tailored to you, right? It's going to have, your address, right? Where you live, your work address, right? What you do for work, your profession, how your family members, right? Any kind of medical history, right? Within the family. It's going to have all that information, including your digital wallet, all your money, right? Because again, they're destroying the dollar, right? As of right now, right? More and more nations are not utilizing the dollar in trade. They're constantly printing money. The dollar is finna just crash completely, right? And what are they going to turn to? They're going to turn to this digital device. This is why they came out with Fed Now. I think back in 2022 or 2023, right? They came out with the Fed Now, but they didn't really push it, right? They started passing the Genius Act, the Stable Act, and so on and so forth. All these things which will allow for them to be able to control, to track, to trace, to whatever they need to do, right? That currency, right? That digital currency, because Trump said something about, when he was coming to, campaigning and stuff, he was all against the CBDC. But as soon as he gets into office, he's all for it. He's deceiving you damn devils, man. And this is what that information is. And again, if you don't have that charagma, right, when the dollar officially crashes and you don't have the charagma, hey, well, guess what? He's going to say, hey, in order for you to keep getting money, right, in order for you to be good, right, you're going to have to take this charagma. And if you don't, as it says right here in Revelation 13 and verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell. Meaning you're not going to, cash ain't going to work, Your bank account's going to get shut down. These banks are going to do, they're going to take your money, right? They're going to take all your shit, right? Unless you have the Quran, right? It says, and no man might buy or sell save he that had the MARK or the name of the beast or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So you're going to be asked out, man. Straight the hell up, man. You're going to be asked out if you don't take this Quran. But see, Yahweh Shemel Shai, right? Hath ultimately reserved unto him 7,000 men that have not bowed the knee to Baal and will not bow the knee to Baal, right? The seven is the number of completion, right? So really it's talking about, the 144,000 really in the true believers, man, right? That are not going to give in, right? They're the elect of the nation of Israel are not going to take this charagma, right? Because they understand, right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Al Shah, what's going to happen to those that take it, right? First and foremost, when you jump to Revelation 16, right? It tells you, I'll start at verse 1. Revelation 16:1, it says, and I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the seven angels, go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of the Most High upon the earth. It says, and the first went out and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the MARK of the beast, and upon them which worship the image. So if you take that, hey, guess what, man? Man, great boils and pus filled, pimples, if you will, if that's what you want to call them, right? Boils and stuff like that. Or the Lord finna strike a plague upon you, man, for taking it, and it doesn't stop there, right? The Lord gonna strike you with a mean plague, and then what? The Lord is gonna kill you, right? Revelations 14. And verse 9, it says, doom for worshipers of the beast. Doom. Right? Let's look up that word doom. Right? What is doom? Right? Doom. It says, right, it says judgment, decree, right here. Fate, ruin, destruction. Right? Destruction, doom, to judge, pass judgment on, right? You're going to get judged, right? It says to condemn to punishment, right? And that punishment is going to be what? Just death, right? It says, matter of fact, let's see what I don't know. I can't pull it up. Revelations 14 verse 9, it says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image and receive his MARK or in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. Right? So meaning you're going to be destroyed, man. Right? Via ICBM nuclear missiles, as well as the chariots coming in, Yahweh Shah and the angels, right? In those chariots, right? Coming and sending down those laser beams and burning you the fuck up, man. So not only are you going to get stricken with boils and, a very, nasty, disgusting, deadly plague, and the Lord's going to destroy you if you survive that, So that taking the charagma, there's no option, right? Taking the charagma is not an option, You got to trust and believe in Yahweh Shem El Shah all the way to the end, Let's grab this and we'll close out. This is Jeremiah chapter 17, and I'll start at verse 5. It says, thus saith Yahweh by Shem El Shah, cursed be the man that trusteth in man, right? You can't trust this damn devil. Sirach 12 and 10. Never trust thine enemy, right? And maketh flesh his arm, and whose heart departeth from Yahweh Shem El Shah. For he shall be like the heath in the desert, and shall not see when good cometh, but shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, and in a salt land, and not inhabited. Meaning you're going to be fucked. You're no support. You're going to be the Lord Yahweh Shem El Shah is not going to furnish a table in the wilderness for you, right? When all hell breaks loose and there's no food, there's no water, right? You're just going to be asked out, man. But those who truly trust and believe in Yahweh Shem El Shah, are going to be blessed, as it said right here. But it says, verse 7, blessed is the man that trusteth in Yahweh Shem El Shah, and whose hope the Lord is. For he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, right? Continual source of life, right? When you look at these forests and so on and so forth, these plants, these trees, right, that are right next to these, bodies of water, right? They constantly flourishing, right? Don't matter how hot or how cold, they got a constant, an infinite life source, right? And that's Yahweh Bashem El Shah for us, right? It says, for he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, and that spreadeth out her roots by the river, and shall not see when he cometh. But her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful in the year of drought, neither shall cease from yielding fruit. Meaning we're going to be good, man. Lord, will we be of the elect, right? But we have to continue to remain faithful all the way into the end. That means do not take the karama. That means don't rely on this damn devil. I mean, if he wants to give us an extra $1,000, cool. Just like when the scamdemic happened and he was giving out those stimmies. Hey, bros are taking it, It's just extra free money, man, And bros, will utilize that for what they need to utilize it for, man. But when it comes to him offering that karagma, we ain't gonna take it, man. Fuck you and your system. And we understand that that's gonna happen soon, right? We're in the time where this is gonna ultimately happen soon, man. But hey, we gotta continue to remain faithful to Yahweh Shemel Shah all the way to the end, But that's all I got, man. Lord will is edifying. Lord will straight to the point. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakodash, double honors to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the elders, great millstone. Till next time, I say shalom.